13,829 petitioners wanted their ward councillors to represent them, the ratepayers and voters, on this important principle of health and well-being. To encourage healthy activities, football, cricket, sailing, dog walking, etc. These proposals, if not scrapped, will affect the very people we need to protect. Many young families on low incomes cannot afford an annual parking permit or pay up to £15 a day to park to use our beaches. Will Cabinet ratify this decision as finally scrapped?
Thank you. Councillor Miller, would you respond, please?
Yeah. I thank Bob for Mr Lister for his question. As you're aware, Cabinet will be debating this issue after the Chairman of the Place Overview and Scrutiny Committee will come and detail that report. We're looking at agenda item 5. You'll be aware of this decision following this debate when Cabinet draw its conclusions from that report. And thank you for your question.
Mr Lister, do you have a supplement?
No, I don't.
Okay. Thank you. Mr Sprackling, would you mind coming to the table to present your question, please?
If I could just add a preamble, this is a question that folk asked at the Overview and Scrutiny Committee and didn't get an answer from the councillors present.
Okay.
7.5 of the Council Budget Monitoring Report, which ran from the 1st of April to the 30th of September 2011, note, the report to Cabinet on the 8th of November 2011 read, in respect of the cost of employment efficiency review programme, significant progress has been made recently with the trades unions' acceptance of the proposed changes to employees' terms and conditions. These savings, estimated at £1 million, will start to accrue to the Council from 2012-13 onwards. I believe that this was due to include savings of about 100,000. I'm not sure of that figure because I couldn't find the relevant figure on the Council website. From the introduction of charges for staff parking in the Civic Centre multi-storey car park. What is the current position, please?
Thank you, Mrs Sprackling. Councillor Mrs Haynes, would you respond, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I thank Mr Sprackling for his question. With respect to the estimated savings of £1 million as per the Cabinet report on the 8th of November 2011, I can advise the following. A collective agreement on costs of employment was sealed with our recognised trade unions in September 2011, which led to an MTFP saving, as predicted, of approximately £1 million for the financial year 2012-13. Most of this savings was obtained by withholding salary increments, which would otherwise have been paid to staff on the 1st of April 2012. Employees' salary increments, in accordance with their national terms and conditions of service, were reinstated from April 2013 onwards. During the negotiations beforehand, over several months, we had pressed the unions towards gaining their agreement to a 2-year pay freeze, but the signals in response were that this was a bridge too far and that they would not be able to sell this to their members through a ballot. We held further talks but were not able to progress this further and accepted the concession to just a single-year pay freeze. This was written into the collective agreement that increments would recommence on the following 1st of April 2012. An additional smaller amount of around £150,000 per year became a permanent annual saving to the Council from 2012-13 onwards, and this saving continues to be made each year. This arose from the element of the collective agreement which ended casual use payments under national terms and conditions to employees being reimbursed for official business mileage. In place of casual user payments, which at the time were 60-odd pence per mile, depending on engine size, the HMRC rate of 45 pence per mile was agreed and adopted, with a lower 25 pence rate for each mile over 100 miles claimed in a single journey. It had been intended to introduce charges for staff parking at the Civic Centre multi-storey car park the following year, under cost of employment phase 2 negotiations. Unfortunately, it proved impossible to develop proposals that were sufficiently acceptable to achieve a second collective agreement on this issue after eventually nearly 2 years of exploring different options. the proposal was actually set aside. Now, in response to the last bit of your question, Mr. Sprackling, the financial climate has since changed, and we now know that the revenue support grant will cease from 2019. In view of this and the need to identify savings of 12 million to 2019-20, this proposal will be revisited.
Madam Chairman, councillors, can we please be assured that Cabinet here will not ignore the people of Poole and will discard the proposal for parking charges in Hamworthy Park? This park freely provides opportunity for both health and well-being, one of the council's corporate priorities, and chosen by the Mayor as one of her key issues. Hamworthy Park is enjoyed by residents from across the borough. Over 90%, according to the consultation, travelling by car, using a small car park. Also, over 90% of the respondees to this public consultation supported the recommendation of the Place Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Will the Cabinet now do the same? Thank you.
Would you kindly respond on my behalf?
I thank Mr. Parson for a question. Beauty will be debated by Cabinet when the Chairman of the Place Overview and Scrutiny Committee has presented his report at agenda item 6 of this agenda. Again, as previously advised, the decision will be made following that debate.
Ms. Parsons, do you have a supplementary question?
Not a question, just a statement. Will you please support the recommendation before you? Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Mr. Ely, thank you. Would you like to come to the table? Can you get through, please? Oh, it's you.
Sorry to interrupt, but we can't hear back here.
Well, you're having trouble hearing.
Yeah. It's only the odd person we can hear because the others aren't talking loud enough.
Madam Chairwoman, councillors, residents.
Do you want the microphone?
Poole Harbour Canoe Club, for 60 years now, has been helping people take part in water sports. We're a voluntary group. 26 years ago, we moved to Lake Pier at the insistence of the council at that time. We committed all of the club's funds and efforts to establishing a centre there for paddling sports. We still continue to help all generations out on the water at minimal cost, making the water sports accessible for everyone.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ely, could you please ask your question?
How will the council support this sporting activity?
Thank you. Right, Councillor Inger?
That's fine. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Ely, for your question. All right. There's a few things about the background I'd like to cover here, and then a pledge going forward. We acknowledge the value Poole Harbour Canoe Club brings to the local community. Forgive me, I'm reading this, but just so I get it right. The value Poole Harbour Canoe Club brings to the community. We'd like to thank the organising committee and the volunteers. We've got numerous volunteers for delivering what is high quality activities and also for developing the new facilities at Lake Pier. As the council, I believe we've supported the club over many years, including well before my time, with officer time and expertise. And this is part of our work, not just for the canoe club, but right across the borough, to foster active, healthy lifestyles, and in particular water sports, which make use of Poole's unique assets. And for instance, in the last 2 years, and I've just picked the last 2 years alone, and there's plenty more, we've developed and opened 3 new outdoor activity and education centres. For instance, the Harbour Challenge Hamworthy in 2014, the Land and Wave at Sandbanks in 2015, and the Harbour Challenge Alexandra Park just earlier on this year. We've also enabled new water sports concessions on the main seafront at Branksome Dean, at Shore Road and at Sandbanks, which offer training and also equipment hire at a reasonable rate. And we've also provided and continue to provide grant funding to various water sports providers, including Poole Rowing Club and Poole Sailability. Now, I'm aware that I've answered a broader question than simply canoeing, but it includes canoeing, and in addition, going forward, we'll continue our provision of sailing, windsurfing and kayaking activities within Poole Park. We'll continue our maintenance of slipways at Bater and Hamworthy, and also we'll continue our provision of accommodation for the RNLI and surf life-saving clubs at Sandbanks and Branks and Charn. So the pledge, giving all of that, the pledge going forward is that we aim to continue to support outdoor pursuits in a wide range of them, bearing in mind where in the country we are, and to different clubs in a variety of ways, tailoring it to each club's needs. We'd be happy to meet the canoe club representatives, yourselves, to discuss what you may need going forward in the future. Thank you.
Srini, do you have a supplementary question?
One point, very glad to hear you say.
I must be very strict,
Yeah.
but it has to be a question.
There seems to be a very strong bias towards supporting commercial organisations, but not really much thought about the voluntary sector.
So the question is,
Can you address that? Can you look more towards helping the voluntary groups who may not have much money? I mean, we're glad to see the commercial groups what they're doing, but you neglect the...
Right. let's take the question then. I think, Councillor Iyengar, that is something that you could look into.
Yeah, absolutely, that's how I was going to respond, which is, okay, I'll take that as a plea from you, you suspect we're not doing enough. Okay, I have a view on that, but let's take that forward. Happy to meet.
Thank you.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll move to agenda item number 5. Can I ask Councillor Garner Watts to come to the table, who's the chair of the Place Overview Scrutiny Committee? At this stage, can I just ask, are you hearing all of us?
Not very well.
A little bit bad, okay. We'll use the microphone. Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. We want you all to be able to hear what's going on. Before I ask you to present your report, I'll just say a few words. At the beginning of this journey, we were particularly keen to have, in these particularly challenging times, everything on the table, and we hoped, as indeed our residents have, they would engage in our public consultations and help us make these very difficult decisions that we are going to have to make in these very challenging times. So on that note, I'll ask the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny to present his report, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this was one agenda item. This was one agenda item at Overview and Scrutiny, but we broke it into 3 separate items within the parking agenda item. So we started off with extension to on-street...
Excuse me, Councillor Garner Watts, they're not hearing. Can you hold the microphone closer?
1, 2, 1, 2? Right, so yeah, we broke this into 3 separate areas. The first agenda item 5, which is extension of on-street parking charges to roads adjacent to beaches. Now this was brought to Overview and Scrutiny, as I'm sure you're all aware, on the 24th of May, with the committee being requested to allow more time for the officers to work through the public consultation feedback with a view to working through the issues that people had and seeing where they could mitigate against those issues. However, on the evening, an amendment was tabled and seconded very, very quickly that this item should not be worked on any further, and the council should concentrate on increasing funds and limiting expenditure in other areas. So I'll present that first to the committee.
Okay, thank you. I'll have to shout, otherwise we'll have to have another run, won't we? So we have Julian McLaughlin with us, who we can ask questions from members of Cabinet if we so need. So at this stage I'll ask if Cabinet has any questions they wish to ask of the Chair. No? Okay, I know some of you were present at the meeting. So then I'll come to Councillor Mellor.
Thank you. Madam Leader. Thank you, Councillor Garner Watts. Do I need a microphone or people hear me? Okay, well I'll take it anyway. Firstly, something fundamental here is we've had an absolutely massive reaction to this consultation, and I think I'd personally like to thank the officers for organising our part of that, and also residents for engaging so well in the process and generating their own the responses as well, which is very important. But for me, and having sat through the place meeting where I don't believe the issues were debated fully, I think they jumped straight to an amendment. I would like to respect the consultation and the process, and the 13,000 plus signatures who have responded, and actually do the relevant work looking through those responses before we're able to actually come forward with any proposals. It's very, very clear that the overwhelming feedback across most of the proposals was that what was in front of them isn't something that has popular support, and there are many areas where, particularly the Canoe Club have influenced and said there are some things we should be looking at in terms of 4 hours and the like. So what I would like to do, Madam Chair, is suggest an amendment which will allow officers due time to go through the proposals. So if I may, I suppose, in recognition of the results of the extensive public consultation undertaken on this issue, Cabinet requests the officers to undertake further work to seek to mitigate the concerns raised, whilst addressing the transport-related issues in the area. And secondly, that Cabinet then consider results of such work.
Do I have a second? Excuse me, can we have quiet, please? Excuse me, we must conduct the business. Right, do we have any questions or comments on that? We've got an amendment now, proposed and seconded, so we need to go to the vote on that. So
Look at the legals as
can
well.
you please be quiet, or I will adjourn the meeting. Now, let us conduct the business. Right, we have an amendment before us. We will vote on that amendment. So those in favour? Thank you. That is carried. Oh, you're going to have, sorry, those against?
No, that's not.
And abstentions.
That's just
Right, so then we go to agenda item number 6. So, Councillor Garner Watts, please.
Thank you. Agenda item 6 is the charging for parking within the car parks within some of Poole's parks. This again came to overview and scrutiny on the 24th of May with the same request from the officers that they be given more time to work through the results or the feedback from the public, very in-depth public consultation with a view again to mitigating some of the issues which people felt were involved there. An amendment was tabled almost immediately and seconded, and then went to the vote and was passed with a vote of 6 in favour, 2 against and 2 abstentions. I present that to the Cabinet.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Brooke, I believe you wish to speak.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the opportunity to speak to this. I actually seconded the amendment that was put forward by Councillor Pawlowski, and which was supported by the majority of committee members, as you've heard. And that amendment was, of course, not to pursue the implementation of the charges. It was very clear that there was very strong feeling from local residents, and that, of course, was in the detail of the responses that we were given for committee, and not only the local residents, but also a vast majority of the local sporting organisations as well, against the introduction of car parking charges. There were a number of important issues raised during the discussion, and I would like to just raise two of those, which I believe are amongst the more important. Firstly, the impact upon the well-being and health of all the users of the various parks. In Thought of the Day, Radio 4, on the 6th of June, Reverend Professor David Wilkinson stated, and I take this a very brief quote, "Sport is a key part of human experience and community." And of course it is one of our key strategic priorities as well in terms of the well-being of our residents. As I say, it's evident from the consultation responses that the introduction of charges would result in many people reducing the number of visits that they make to those parks and would make many sporting activities very, very difficult, if not impossible, to operate. Consequently, the implementation of charges will have a detrimental effect on the well-being and health of our local communities. Secondly, the Equality Impact Assessment identified impacts upon young families, especially those on low incomes. And the mitigations proposed, i.e. we could use buses, those families would still have to pay and pay far more than they would if they were going by car. So it is discriminatory to introduce this particular policy because those people would be disadvantaged against all the other members of the community, and the whole, as I say, health and well-being of our community will be affected. So I urge you to go along with the recommendation from the committee not to pursue the current proposals to implement the charges. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. I think we will need the microphone because Councillor Ransom has a very gentle voice. Yes.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. Good. I can hear you too. Okay. Councillor Conwatts, in your judgment, did the committee have the opportunity to consider the consultation responses, or did the amendment proposal forestall debate?
I have to say that I was quite shocked at the speed at which the amendment came to the committee. We hadn't even really opened the debate on the proposal from the officers that they be given more time to scrutinise the results of the public consultation. So, no, I don't think we did really have time to debate the original proposal before the amendment was put in. As I said, and I'll be honest, it took me by surprise how quickly that amendment was put forward.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody who took time and the effort to put into taking part in this consultation. In total of 1,700 people.
You're not talking.
In total of 1,700 people took part in the consultation. I'd like to thank them now formally. The results of the consultation were in reality quite complex, with different results from different groups and with different results concerning different parts. I think it's extremely important that officers consider these consultation responses carefully, and let the officers again get to fully understand the detailed concerns that residents have and to explore whether and how concerns might be mitigated. I also believe that further work is required in getting a better understanding of the actual vehicle activities within our parks. Because it's actually about safeguarding parks, it's not about anything else. In terms of, on a specific point mentioned, car parks are not least sensitive in this matter. Thank you. In view of that, I'd like to actually propose an amendment to the recommendation as follows. The recommendations are the amendments are in four parts. One, that Cabinet endorses the general need to improve vehicle parking activity and further improve the quality of the park. Two, requests that officers undertake further work to analyse parking movements, that is, the numbers and durations, within each of the parts. Little three, that Cabinet requests officers undertake further work to seek to mitigate the concerns raised in the consultation responses. And little 4, the Cabinet then consider the results of such work.
So any questions or comments on that one?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to make a brief comment as a Hamworthy councillor. I have seen all the comments about the proposals for Hamworthy Park. I don't propose to discuss them today and reopen the debate, though, at this meeting. My concern about today's proposal is simply that I don't feel that the case has been fully made for doing further work in Hamworthy. So I will not be supporting this proposal. Thank you.
Anyone else? I think for the sake of clarity, and I think this applies to item 5 as well, to make it quite clear, as a result of the consultation, the scheme as it was originally presented on both items 5 and 6 is not to be pursued. This is work that is being done in response to the consultation that you have kindly partaken in for us in this matter, just to make that absolutely clear. So we're now going to the vote on the amendment. Are you ready to make the decision? Okay, so those in favour of that amendment, those against, abstentions, thank you. Right, I think we can now move to agenda item number 8. 7, sorry, I'm trying to get the
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Agenda item 7, following the same theme. Excuse me. The proposed car parking charges at Upton House. Again, this came to overview and scrutiny on the same meeting, the 24th of May, with the request from the officers that the committee support the implementation of car parking charges at Upton Country Park. Again, very, very quickly, a motion was tabled with the same effect to pursue this no further. Excuse me, and that was seconded. It went to the vote, and the vote actually lost the amendment with a vote of 3 to 5 against, with 2 abstentions. We then voted on the first amendment, which was that Cabinet should endorse the implementation of the parking charges at Upton Park. That was put to the vote and that was carried 5 to 3 with 2 abstentions. I commit that to Cabinet.
Thank you very much. Can I have a microphone? Right, Councillor Mrs. Moore, I believe you wish to speak. Would you come to the table, please? Would you mind collecting this on? Thank
you, Madam Chair. I'm speaking as a concerned councillor wishing to help the Friends of Upton Country Park. I attended and spoke at the recent place scrutiny and would like to correct some of the inaccurate comments made at the meeting by committee members. Firstly, I would like to make it clear the Friends of Upton Country Park have always firmly opposed the introduction of parking charges and have no idea why any member of the committee or this council ever thought otherwise. Secondly, I raised, and survey respondents also suggested, charging might displace parking into Creekmoor, Longmeadow and nearby roads. A member of the committee commented that this would not happen because nobody would want to cross the busy Upton Road. Agreed. nobody would, but they would use the underpass. I would also add that given there are no plans to charge in the Poole Road car park, and indeed to expand it when someone can work out how to deal with the public footpath running across the site, it is likely to displace car parking into the Poley Drive area. Local county and district councillor Fred Drain, who actually lives nearby, did try to make this point at the meeting, and it's essential someone communicates with Purbeck District Council. Displaced car parking is an issue you will need to deal with, particularly when it's in another council's area. It's clear from consultation responses the majority of park users are opposed to the introduction of car parking charges. Especially worrying is that 50% of park users have said they would visit the park less often or not at all if charges are introduced. This cannot be ignored. Upton Country Park has a cafe facility, kiosk and Upton House itself, and if people stop visiting the park, this will adversely affect the businesses. Will organisations or the wedding parties still want to book the house if they have to pay to park, especially when there's a great deal of competition out there? I'm afraid this proposal might be counterproductive to its aims. I also disagree with 7.2 in the ONS report. You can walk or cycle to Upton Country Park, but not if you're disabled, elderly and infirm or have very young children. They will need a car or public transport. But there is only an apology for a bus service with 2 journeys a day into the park and none out. Those young families visiting this park will therefore have to use a car because there's no alternative. The only choice they have is whether or not to visit. Now I do appreciate the council currently subsidises Upton Country Park and wants to make it wash its face financially. But why just go for the motorists? Surely some imagination wouldn't go amiss. Come up with some truly innovative income generating schemes. Sure. I hate to mention Bournemouth, but they have just hosted a ping pong championship in the lower gardens. Now that's what I call imagination. I'm not suggesting you do this, but it is thinking outside the box. So I think what this park needs is intelligent, imaginative, income-generating schemes which people will support. You can achieve far more with goodwill than any boring, unpopular scheme. Throw this out and start again. Talk to Bournemouth, talk to anyone with imagination for schemes that help this park become cost neutral. But above all, allow Poole residents to freely enjoy this beautiful park.
Thank you. You can still ask questions of the chair if you wish, and we do also have a service unit counting if you wish to ask questions. I'm sorry, I'm conscious that you're probably not hearing me now. When you speak there. Right, I was just telling members of Cabinet that we have the service unit head here if we had any questions to ask of him, and we can still ask questions of the chair if we wish. So, Councillor Rampton.
If I may, before I start with what I was going to say, if I may just address a couple of points made. Friends of Upton Country Park, prior to the consultation beginning, 2 meetings were held with the executive of the Friends of Upton Country Park, and at both of those meetings, they actually expressed they did not have a problem with charging. They then went on to the AGM where they made a different decision. The second point, Councillor Fred didn't attend the meeting, but he didn't speak anyway. I heard his comments, then I did attend the meeting. My comments to Mr. Fred, if he wants to carry them back, would be that the magic money tree died a long time ago. Income generating schemes. Thank you for the idea, but unfortunately there weren't any ideas there, were there? Got any better ideas? Actual fact, there are several income generating schemes being run at Upton Country Park. And you might have noticed some of the commercial activities that happened over Christmas, over Easter, segways, this weekend. the events, the weddings and so on. Plenty going on, but they do not generate anywhere near the kind of money that is required. It's no use saying we want this and we don't want you to do this, but no one, unfortunately, has come up with a better idea. And I'm going to go with what I was originally going to say now. The idea that Upton The idea that Upton Country Park should be paid for itself has actually been kicking around for most of the last decade now. It was formally made part of the Council's mid-term financial plan in February. Not this February, as was stated by certain councillors at the committee meeting, but February 2015, at full council, and yes, supported by all parties. Prior to that, it had been identified as an assumed or green saving by opening scrutiny committees and by the Star Chamber, as it was then called, and was fully supported by that cross-party group, and indeed assumed by all in all the cross-party budgets. It has not been proposed as any budget or MTFP setting council, and was reiterated again this February's council, where again it was unopposed and went without comment. Whilst there is a financial imperative for the council to make Upton Country Park self-sustaining, actually, I think this is the right thing to do anyway. I don't think this is a negative thing to do. I think this is a positive thing to do. The evidence is all that Upton Country Park, in the medium term and onward from that, can actually be self-sustaining. And it can get better and better as it goes on, using the money that we gain from car parking and other initiatives that have been there. For example, the catering offer being through the transport. I have absolutely total faith that our officers managing Upton Country Park can deliver a self-sustaining park. However, we have to give them the tools in order to do that. And this is one of those tools that they need in order to deliver that self-sustaining park. I will point to some headline changes since the consultation that have been changed. For example, we now have a 2-hour slot in the charges, and the annual permit has now been reduced to £40 for a whole year. That's 80p a week. So regular visitors will obviously see a huge benefit in that. I would also point out the implications of not implementing this proposal. The savings within the mid-term financial plan, as already stated, are assumed. So the money is coming out of Upton Country Park. It really is. It would not be the kind of place sorry. It would not be the kind of place it is now in this instance without this proposal going ahead. It would revert to something similar, if people remember, to what it was like when the council first started running it. And it was not a very pleasant place at all. We need to do this for Upton Country Park. This is for Upton Country Park.
Members of Cabinet, any questions, any comments anyone wishes to make? Councillor Mrs. Rankin.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment really, just to anyone people can hear me.
I think you should. It's very difficult for them to hear at the back.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment on what's been said. I go to the country park quite often with the dog there, and the last time I was there, it was a school holiday. The car park was absolutely heaving with people, and 4 people, because it was taking me quite some time to get the dog organised, 4 people came up to me and said, "Where do I pay? Where do I pay to park here?" It's an absolute no-brainer not to do this. It's a wonderful place, and the money will stay in the park and invest further in the fantastic facilities that we have. So I absolutely support this.
My arms aren't quite that long. Right, any other comments anyone wishes to make before we go to the decision? No? Okay, so then I'm going to the decision on agenda item 7 at 2.1, 2.2 and 2.3. The members of the public likely to read those decisions out, because I know you haven't all got papers. Okay, so it might be a little while. So 2.1, that in the context of the Council's medium-term plan, the Cabinet 2.2 approves introduction of the Upton Country Park car parking charging schedule as set out in Appendix 1A, revised car park charging proposals of the report of the Head of Culture and Community Learning in order to raise additional income streams and ensure that those who use the park contribute directly to its upkeep. And 2.3 approves the timeframes for system installation and the introduction of car parking charges in the spring of 2017. So may I ask Cabinet those in favour? Thank you very much. And thank you very much to all the members of public. You've been, well, just wonderful. And I know this has been a very emotive and difficult evening, both for what we've, it's been difficult for us to make the difficult decisions, and I thank you for being understanding of the business that we're having to conduct and have listened very carefully to us. So at this stage, I am inviting members of the public who wish to stay for the rest of our Cabinet agenda and further important business. However, I'm going to adjourn the meeting now, and Cabinet will leave the room so that we may clear the room and we'll recommence business